Good morning and welcome to Monday's Special Blend for today, the 9th of December, 2024. I'm your host, Nathaniel Newton, and as usual, here in studio with me, I have Maria Hawkins. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning, everybody. 8:07 in the AM, CKCU 93.1 FM. We welcome you on board for a very special show today. We have our environmental folks in to talk about some pretty serious stuff. I got a guest looking right at me right now. Could you say hi?
Hello, everyone. I'm Guillaume from Bike Ottawa.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to talk with you later today. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We're going to start with our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we broadcast from the unceded territory of the Algonquin people, and we acknowledge and appreciate the stewardship of these lands by the Anishinaabe peoples long before we came. Miigwech.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you.
Well, it's starting to look a little bit more like December outside.
It's looking like something. I think it's a 4-letter word starting with S. So we have freezing rain and freezing drizzle.
Yeah, so if you're not aware, there is another special weather statement in effect for Ottawa and much of eastern Ontario regarding freezing rain and freezing drizzle is possible. So there'll be freezing rain, ice buildup on surfaces, all that type of stuff, low pressure systems, lots and lots of weather things. This is Wednesday Special Blend, so just saying you might want to check the weather for tonight. For tomorrow, be aware that that's going to be happening. Anyways,
absolutely. There's no point in you breaking your coccyx for nothing. You know what I'm saying? If you've ever landed right on your coccyx, it stays with you for quite a while. Today we're going to feature some really great music. But to start off, I want to ask you, Nate, what's Nate been up to?
Well, as you may know, a couple of weeks ago, I went to the Mayfair Theater with Chris, Rochelle, Eric Eagleson, Aaron Kranick, a whole bunch of other people that I should be mentioning, but like there's a lot of people
Chris
involved.
White.
Yeah, there. Well, Chris is the one that commissioned the whole thing. Mm-hmm. We were shooting a music video for a song that his father wrote back years and years ago in the 1960s, I believe. And he, as far as I know, I've been a part of the project for about a year and a half now. I think he's been working on it, thinking about it for several years, at least. But this last year and a half, we got the audio recording done. He got some extra music tracks added to it, and then we went and we filmed the music video and then did a world premiere live Facebook event launch thingy last week.
Is that something that people can find on Nathaniel Newton
No,
YouTube?
that's on Chris's.
So Chris White.
Well, there'll be a link to it. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what Chris goes under on YouTube. I think it's Chris White, but it might be kind of difficult to find it. So I would recommend. We'll
definitely set up a link for you to be able to just click. As always,
everything that we mention on the show that you can find on the CKCU Monday Special Blend playlist on ckcufm.com. Click on programs, click on Monday Special Blend from the program menu, and you'll see the most recent playlist that I edit as we go throughout the show. So when I start playing a song, I then go on to once my mic's turned off, I go onto this thing and I start updating. What am I playing right now?
You're so efficient, I'm telling you.
I have to do it that way because it'd never get done otherwise.
No, I totally get that. So what's Maria been up to? Well, for those who are in the know, we have an event coming up for climate action in January on I think it's the 10th of January.
What's it about?
It is a night of fun and music to raise money to help our friend Angela and all the folks over at Climate Action to do what they do.
Yeah, we'll have to look into the details.
We'll have to share. We'll have to share some of that stuff.
I'm not sure off the top of my head all the details of that one. But
yeah, so that's coming up January 10th. January 9th, I'll be hosting the Jam at Irene's. And I'm really looking forward to that. As you know, the Jam at Irene's on Bank Street has been running for at least 17, 18 years now. And to kick off the 2025 season, I get to co-host with Vince Heffide and Corky Keeley. Bass player hasn't been announced yet, but I'm sure it'll be somebody really good. And we're going to have fun. On today's show, I wanted to, as we're doing this whole month, Hats Off Month, tribute to local folks. I've dug out something that I absolutely love, and that is the Christmas platter. This is an event that's held every year to support the Ottawa Food Bank. And on this particular year, I have a number of artists that I really wanted to showcase. So first of all, we're going to play Chris White's brand new world release.
I don't know if it's played on the radio yet.
Except
if not,
right here, folks.
If so, it's not very many times. This is probably one of the first times it's being played.
That's right. And we're going to follow that up immediately with a local legend, Mr. Tony Turner. So please stay with us. You are on CKCU 93.1 FM. Well, Tony Turner always delivers. And, of course, our very own Chris White and his brand new Christmas song. We are so lucky to be the first ones to really put it out there. So please share and let folks know that it has hit the air. Something that's coming up on Friday the 13th is the Barrel Boys Bluegrass Christmas at Redbird. You want to say that 3 times in a row, Barrel Boys Bluegrass Christmas. And doors open at 7, show starts at 8. General admission. At thebarrelboys.com. You can check it out. But as I say, they're at the Redbird and Redbird Live, 1165 Bank Street. They've turned to be quite a going venture in terms of supporting live music, and we're so grateful to them for that. The event that I'm performing in on the 10th is called Roots for the Sky, and that will also be at Redbird Live with Brother Bones, John Sobel, Vince Halfhide, and myself, and a few other people. I think there's a kind of a long list of folks in support of climate action and what we need to do to move forward. And now we're going to step gracefully into our next segment. Take it away, Nate.
All right. So if you might know, a few years ago, Vancouver took the bold step of expanding its network of dedicated bike lines. The payoff was dramatic. Over time, the city saw a 40% increase in cycling that led to a 14,000-ton reduction in CO2 emissions. Not bad for an initiative that also added to the physical and mental health of Vancouverites. Contrast that with Bill 212 passed by the Ontario government a couple of weeks ago, which looks to be leaving the province in the opposite direction. Premier Doug Ford announced that his government will be ripping up the bike lanes on 3 arterial downtown Toronto streets. Sounds like a topic for Angela Keller-Herzog's monthly Climate Cafe column. Angela is Executive Director of Community Associations for Environmental Sustainability, otherwise known as CAFES, and she's here with me today in the studio. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning, Nate and Maria. I'm here indeed, and I've brought a really exciting guest who's heavily invested in this topic. Guillaume Gaillard is on the board of Bike Ottawa, an organization working really hard to promote biking infrastructure in the city. Welcome, Guillaume.
Thank you for having me, Angela.
So, Bill 212 that Nate mentioned just now, it requires municipalities to get permission from the provincial government if they want to install dedicated bike lines. How weird is that? And not only that, the province reserves the right to demand the shutdown of existing bike lanes as well. I imagine that this new legislation is keeping you busy.
It definitely is, unfortunately. With Bike Ottawa, we've been organizing protests with like-minded orgs that try to make our city a better place. We've been pushing some actions from our members, petitions. We wrote an open letter to the city council. So yeah, it's keeping us busy, as you're saying.
So I understand that in Toronto, they're actually going to rip up part of the Bloor Street, Yonge Street, and University Street segregated bike lanes at the cost of around $50 million. And all of this over the vehement objections of Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow. So here in Ottawa, are the O'Connor or Laurier bike lanes under threat?
They definitely might. We know nothing for certain, and I don't think staff at City Hall does know even. But the Minister of Transportation did mention the O'Connor bike lane as an example of bad implementation. So we can definitely assume that they're under threat.
Oh, man. So what about the business of a city needing to get permission to install a bike lane? Does this apply to segregated bike lanes only, or any old painted-on bike lane?
Well, the wording of the bill is that any lane that replaces a motor vehicle lane can be ripped up or denied creation in the first place.
Okay. Well, so how do you and your coalition even make sense of this move by the Ford government? So my organization, the CAFES network, does a lot of evidence-based advocacy work for better outcomes for citizens. And I found it totally shocking that Ontario Premier Doug Ford told Global News in October that he planned to remove the 3 sets of bike lanes from Toronto streets regardless of what studies and data showed. What's going on?
Well, that's my point of view. I think there are 3 things at work here. So the first one is creating a wedge issue for the upcoming elections that we all guess are coming soon. And that's what happened in Ottawa during the last municipal election. And Mark Sutcliffe did also use that tool, like the bike lanes, to create a wedge issues. The second point for me is a power play that's specific to Toronto, where Doug Ford is trying to appeal to its voter base and to his donors in his neighborhood. And the third one is a sleight of hand, I would say, a distraction from the rest of the bill. Because we all talked about the bike lanes, right? A lot. But did we talk about the fact that they're making it easier to build highways? And for that, they just bypass the need to have environmental assessments? Or, sorry, I'm losing my point. But no, we didn't talk about that at all, just because we talked about bike lanes.
And that's all bundled into the same bill?
Yes, it's on one same bill, and the bike lanes are a tiny sliver of that bill.
Oh, I didn't know that. So full disclosure, I'm a year-round cyclist. So let me play devil's advocate here. Do you think that if our roads are overcrowded, don't we need to expand our car lanes, our roads, and our highways?
So if our roads are overcrowded, it's because we have a lot of traffic. And what's the most efficient way to move people? It's not cars. Cars are the least efficient way to move people. It's transit, walking, and cycling. Those are the way to get people moving in an efficient manner. So anybody who's talking about tackling congestion and traffic without mentioning that and without giving priority to those 3 modes of transportation is acting in bad faith. And you need to promote alternatives. And that's definitely not what the provincial government is doing.
Wonder if there isn't enough will among the ordinary citizens to give up their cars. The Queensway gets more crowded by the month. They've been expanding it. And have you noticed even the lanes for cars with more than one driver are mostly empty, the carpool lanes?
Well, that's the old adage. If you build it, they'll come.
Induced demand.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a real thing. I mean, it's scientifically proven. But the problem in that sentence is the will. You need to have political will to put up the solutions, to improve transit, to create bike lanes. And right now, in Ottawa specifically, we've been reducing transit.
Yeah.
So we're making things worse. And when I say we, I mean the city is making things worse. And sure, our network of bike lanes is growing, slowly but surely, but it's just a piecemeal approach. We don't have a real connected network, an extensive network going through the city. So the first step for people to ditch their car would be to make the alternatives viable, either transit or cycling. And as of now, that's not the case.
Yeah. How do you think Ottawa is doing compared to other cities?
Well, nothing to write home about. Nate talked about Vancouver, and yeah, we are behind Vancouver. They have a nice network of connected bike lanes there and dedicated bike lanes, which makes a big difference because people want to feel safe before they take their bike. If they don't feel safe, like around half of the population do not feel safe without segregated infrastructure. So if they don't have that, they won't bike. So first, you need to give that to them. And Montreal is another example. Like Valérie Plante and Projet Montréal did an outstanding job in just 2 legislatures. And the city has changed all for the better thanks to them. It's a fantastic network that they've created in the city.
So in terms of the effect of the infrastructure builds for bikes in Paris and Montreal, what has been the effect on traffic?
So I don't have any specific numbers. And from my experience as a former Parisian, the traffic have stayed the same more or less. But what we know is that, because it was reported in the Trillium, is that the provincial government is aware that removing bike lanes does not improve congestion. And that will, in fact, most certainly contribute to congestion, removing the bike lanes. They have a memo that said as much, and that was published or reported in the Trillium. And that's something that most of European cities understand. Like you mentioned Paris, that's like with Montreal, those 2 cities are really the ones that changed a lot in the past decade, let's say, and that had the political will, as I mentioned earlier, to just create those bike lanes and make their cities better. And like the Netherlands, they won an award from the European Commission for best road safety. Why? Because they have many cyclists. And funnily enough, they were also voted the best country to be a car owner by an Australian study made by car insurance sellers. And why is that? Well, partly it's because they have less congestion, less road mortality, and those factors are directly tied to the numbers of cyclists on the road and the quality of their bike infrastructure. So the more cyclists you have, the less congestion you have, because you take drivers and cars off the road, and the safer it is for drivers. For drivers, but also for pedestrians, because the bike lanes create sort of a buffer between the sidewalk and the car lanes. And that way, people walking on the sidewalk are protected from cars. And that's the whole concept of the complete street, where everybody can coexist in the same space safely. And that's what people want. They want safety, they want reliability, they want comfort. And when you give that to them, they will use whatever you provide them.
Okay, so safety is basically at the heart of this issue. So no bike lane means no separated bike lane means that the cyclists are sharing the main traffic lanes with cars and buses. And obviously a big swath of the population, like you've said, wouldn't dare to go out into the street. And I mean, we would all be very surprised to see a parent biking with a 10-year-old on Bank Street, but we wouldn't be surprised to see them on the O'Connor separated bike lane, right? So lots and lots of people are not comfortable, don't feel safe to bike on city streets with traffic. They feel vulnerable and they feel that this is too risky.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, they're right to feel that way. And we can expect that this law will create more fatalities on the street and more injuries. This is like a given. And the funny thing is that the province gave itself a pass because they wrote in the bill that they cannot be sued for any people who are going to be killed or maimed following a removal of bike lane. So they give themselves a pass.
Wow,
yeah.
That is incredible.
Right?
So they're already anticipating that there will be fatalities as a result of their legislation?
Yeah, because that's what the science says. I mean, bike lanes create safety. If you remove them, you decrease the safety. You will have people that will die because of that.
I'd like to see that challenged anyway. See if that would stand up in court. I mean, you could write it into the bill, but then challenge it in court and see if it stands up. That doesn't sound. That sounds.
That sounds terrible. Yeah. So
that's one of the things that are being explored right now is legal changes to that bill, indeed.
okay. So I'm wondering also about demographics. Is there any research to show which segment of the population is more likely to be on a bicycle?
We do have numbers, and for Ottawa specifically, thanks to the Origin Destination Survey that's done regularly. And when you look at the last one, the two strong predictors you have are income and the density of the area. And in the inner core of Ottawa, 48% of households don't have a car. So that's almost half of the population. So when you talk about access to cycling facilities, you're also talking about social equity.
Right. That makes sense. So is this bill a done deal, or is there any pushback?
Well, it isn't done deal in the sense that it was voted. So, and
Right.
yes, that was a disappointment, but that was not surprising, and we were expecting it to happen. But now, well, it's the city's job to fight back against it. And the good news is that we have more than half of our councillors in Ottawa that signed a letter opposing the bill. So they are against it. Well, on the other hand, you have Mark Sutcliffe saying that he will work with the province and clearly don't want to make any fuss. But we can expect at least some cities to push back against the government. And we're also organizing at an advocacy level to try and find any way to counter that law.
So what can regular people, ordinary citizens, do about this?
Well, there are many things that people can do. But the most important thing, I would say, is to get together and find like-minded people. So I'm from Paris, and when I was in Paris, there was no need for me to be part of an advocacy group because the city hall did its job and created the bike lanes that were needed, and which created so much quality of life for people. Like the bike use skyrocketed in 5 years. And when I moved here, I was like, oh boy, I need to do something and to contribute in a way. So that's what I think people can do. It's find like-minded people, organize. I mean, go to the critical masses that are held every month and even twice a month in Ottawa. Probably winter's probably not the best time, but wait for spring and come and join us at the critical masses. There are one every Friday evening, and one on the last Friday of each month, and one on a Saturday. And it's super fun, it's super family friendly, and it just creates a safe space for people on bikes. So do come. You can also obviously join Bike Ottawa. We always welcome new members. And the last thing that you can do is write to your MPP, vote, and push out people who voted that law.
Okay, so we're Maria is telling me that we're starting to be out of time here. So I think we need to take a quick break and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, that's perfect. I definitely agree with a lot of what you guys are talking about, and I have so many thoughts. But let's play a little bit of a song here to break up the schedule, and we'll be back again with more about the bicycle lanes and the issues facing Ottawa here. Thanks for being here with us. Now I've got to figure out which number it was because I've forgotten here. Oh, I pushed the wrong button. There we go. That was Cinnamon Smiles by Maria Hawkins on the Christmas Platter, a second chorus of fresh seasonal songs, a fundraiser for the Ottawa area, for the Ottawa Mission, for the Ottawa Food Bank, I believe it was. And now let's go back to our conversation with Angela and Guillaume, I guess? Guillaume. Sorry, I should have said it 20 times this morning to remember.
Yeah, so we've been talking here about Premier Ford's crazy attack on segregated bike lanes and how he's spending millions to rip up bike lanes, and he's not interested in data or analysis that clearly shows that bicycle traffic actually decreases car congestion. So, Guillaume, you mentioned a thing called critical mass. What's that?
So that's an interesting event that was created like decades ago by back advocates. And the principle behind it is that it's a spontaneous event that's held at a regular date and time so that people know what to expect. And there's no leader. It's completely spontaneous. You just show up, and then the group starts riding, and whoever is at the front takes the lead and go wherever they please. And then they leave that place to somebody else who go there. And the idea behind it is that you reach a critical mass of people on bikes that create a sense of safety and community. And I've been to my fair share of it, and it's amazing because once you reach that critical mass, you just feel safe because you're in a group and cars just yield to you because they don't have any choice. And you just chat with the people riding next to you. You make new friends. It's a great experience. And as I said, family friendly, especially the Saturday one in Ottawa. So you can come and experience it for yourself, and I'm sure you'll love it.
Okay, so if I was like not 100% organic, spontaneous, and wanted to hook up with a critical mass, how do I find out when they are?
So you have several places where they are advertised. You can check out the Bike in Ottawa subreddit, for example. You can check out also the Critical Mass Ottawa Facebook page. And it's always also advertised on Blue Sky or Twitter if you're still on that cesspool.
Okay, so it seems like the most trusty one might be to go to Critical Mass Facebook page, or I guess just Googling it and seeing what comes up. So it looks like this Ford maneuver is definitely a setback for active transit in Ontario. So how do you keep your hopes up?
Well, it's tough at times, but there's still some good news around here. Like Ottawa is still improving its network, like slowly and very gradually, obviously, too gradually, but still things are moving in the right directions. Like we have now new bike lanes in front of the future central library, which is like definitely decent. And that's going to be extended then into downtown. You have Purolator, the delivery package company, that opened last year a delivery center downtown, which is only using cargo e-bikes and slow-speed vehicles, electric vehicles.
I saw one. You know, I was on the top of the double-decker bus, and I saw the Purolator big bike, a cargo bike, and the first thing I did was I take a picture and I send it to my family like, I want one of these. I could get so much done with one of these.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. And what I didn't mention, because people are going to say, oh, but what are they going to do during the 6 months of winter we have in Ottawa? Well, they're winterized, so they're used all year long. So we are slowly moving towards more environmental friendly development model, but too slowly. And definitely like cities like Vancouver or Montreal are further along. A lot of cities in Europe are also like, maybe not light years, but light minutes ahead of us, which is already quite a lot.
Yeah.
So it depends where in Europe. Like if you go to Rome or Brussels, that's not the best examples, but Paris, Amsterdam, London are all doing a great job. And what I want to say is that like cycling, so we're talking about environmental issues right now, but it's so much more than that. It's great for like commercial activity. And the BIAs of Bloor Street in Toronto and in Montreal also several business associations, which at first spoke out against the bike lanes on their street, then changed their mind and actually recognized that it increases their business, it improves their business.
Yeah.
Like more people are coming more often, and people on bikes are also spending more like on a year than people who comes in cars. So it's good for business. It's good for noise pollution because pollution is not just greenhouse gases. It's also noise pollution. It's great also for your physical health and therefore your mental health. And also, like the silver lining to that, it's also good for the finance of the province because it's definitely saving money on the public health budget. And there was a study in France that was released last year. And basically, for every kilometer cycled, there was a €1 saving for the public health system.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And the last also financial aspect is that, well, it's cheaper for you to bike, because the cost of owning a bike is definitely cheaper than owning a car. And it's cheaper for the city because bike infrastructures are cheaper than car infrastructure, and they cost way less to maintain. So,
wow. Okay. So on all fronts, I'm really liking your vision of what we could build here. So I'd really like to give a big thanks for you and for Bike Ottawa fighting the good fight, and also for coming out early in the morning to the CKCU radio studio. So that was Guillaume from Bike Ottawa. We didn't get a chance to talk about electric bikes and electric cargo bikes. Maybe we'll save that for a future edition of the monthly Climate Cafe segment on CKCU Community Radio.
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely have to do a future segment about that. I actually have an e-bike kit that I've been working on that I got from Maria. Right now, I've got everything I need to build an e-bike except for the battery, which is one of the more expensive pieces, but I have all the other pieces, and I'm going to be working on that. I love green energy and things like that, so I've always been excited that every time that you're doing a segment here on the show, because I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to find out about stuff that I already am passionate about, new angles, other people that are equally as enthusiastic and involved. I'm wondering, I'm sure you've seen the YouTube channel Not Just Bikes?
yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah. So I'm a huge fan of that channel. That's a person that used to live here in London, Ontario, and has moved to the Netherlands, for listeners that aren't familiar. And it talks a lot about sustainable infrastructure, being able to walk everywhere you need to go in your city without having to worry about owning a car, the pollution involved, the environmental effect, the cost, and all of these things that we don't think about in the more car-centric societies in these suburbs, and a lot of the influence coming in from the United States. I could talk for ages about all of the different issues with the car-centric society, with different vehicle types, especially with the larger SUV type vehicles, and the number of fatalities that they cause, both not just for the people they hit, but for the people in the cars too, because they're exempt from a lot of the safety standards that have to apply to other cars. They're not compatible in collisions. I could just go on and on and on and on and on. But instead of doing that, I'm going to play another one of the songs from the Christmas Platter album.
This is Pat Moore. Pat Moore is an alum of CKCU. As a matter of fact, she's probably one of the best local musicians who has given years and years and years to CKCU to help us build up our listenership, and she does great work. She's also very fun live. So, ladies and gentlemen, Pat Moore. Thank you so much, Pat Moore, for being the amazing lady that you are. Thank you for your many years of support to CKCU and the CKCU family. Pat would not only do her show, but she'd sit in to replace people that were out sick or on holiday or whatever the emergencies. You could call Pat, and Pat was the one that filled in. Let us just take 1 second to thank also Chopper McKinnon for starting the Saturday show that we love so much called Canadian Spaces.
Oh, yeah. We do have a live show coming up for Canadian Spaces. If I can grab my calendar here quickly.
Yeah, it's coming up real soon.
I believe it's 2 weeks. Yes. So the 21st will be live again. And I do have an email about the details, but it's not on the front of my screen right now.
That's all good. That's all good. Just as long as folks know what's coming up. I know it's Christmas and people can get stressed out at Christmas time, so I want you to take care of you a little bit, okay?
Bella Vista Restaurant.
Is that where it's being held?
2645 Bank Street at Alta Vista.
All right. On
the 21st. There'll be a bunch of cool people that, if you're a music fan from around the Ottawa city, you'll hear people that you recognize, as well as probably some new people. But yeah, so that's the plan. We're going to be doing that. I'm looking at it right now, and I'll be there helping out in person.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Anytime you want to listen back to our shows and listen to what we've been up to, you can listen back on demand at ckcufm.com, I do believe. And you can on demand, and you can listen back. My name is Maria Hawkins. You can reach me, maria@mariahawkins.ca. I tend to put together the music for this show. If
if it wasn't for you.
If you want to have your song played, please send me an email. Let's talk about getting it on the air. And, of course, if you have a gig coming up and you want to promote it through CKCU, please give us a call. Maria@mariahawkins.ca. That's my email. You can send me an email anytime. And to find Nate, Nathaniel Newton on YouTube, and there are a plethora of videos with every single thing you can think of, but one of the best is his rain. The rain ones that help you relax and calm down, because this time of year it brings out the stress in people. So take time to take care of you, because we care about you here at CKCU. That's why we do this. This is community radio. This is for you. That's what it's all about.
Before we go, I just noticed that there's a Peak Festival on Saturday, the winter edition. I didn't realize it was already this Saturday.
Wow.
If you've never been to Peak Festival at Arts Courts, I highly recommend it. Go check it out. There's a large lineup. Anyways, if you don't know what to do, you're looking for something to do, you can go to the CKCU FM website, and the top right-hand corner, there's a button called Events, and it's got all kinds of stuff happening in the city, this capital city of Ottawa, where people say there's nothing to do.
Tony Turner and Chris White, a Yule Duel, will be December 15th at the Bella Vista Restaurant. So please, you heard Tony Turner and Chris on the show this morning. Please support them in the live, because these guys work so hard for community. Ladies and gentlemen, CKCU 93.1 FM.
We'll be back again, same time next week.